Hi there, welcome to Center for Arts Technology Presents Cat Chat. I'm Chris Morris, your host, and today we'll be talking to Sean Ridgway. He is the program head of 2D animation and animation for game, film, and visual effects here at Center for Arts Technology. Okay, here we go. My name is Chris Morris, and I'm here with Sean Ridgway.
How you doing?
And we're here to talk about the animation. Well, we start off with your background, of course, Sean. You are the department head currently for Center for Arts Technology, the animation for game, film, and visual effects department head, and the 2D animation and digital art department head as well.
Correct. Everything animation at CAT is my domain.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, and you've been here for a while now. So how you've been with the school since, not day one? Or has it
I've been at this campus in Kelowna for 7 years now and counting. And overall with the Center for Arts and Technology, or TECH, the education company, for 12 years and counting.
Wow. That's huge.
Yeah, all in animation. So
absolutely. So, and then, so your background, you were in, before coming to CAT, work for Disney and different companies like that. What's your background? Like, where did you go to? Did you go to school?
Yeah, well, born and raised in Ontario, and again, like a lot of the students we get that have these passions and dreams to be an artist and that love to draw and so forth, and things we look for in an applicant. Same as me. I knew I loved to comic books and movies, and and back then we didn't have computers or even VCRs and such, and so anything I could watch on TV. In terms of I love the old stop motion stuff, and loved drawing from comic books, and I could just spend hours drawing and reading a lot, and so artistically was something creative, something artistic was something I wanted to pursue. Yeah, and growing up in Ontario, I recognized once I was done high school that, hey, I want to pursue this passion. Animation, I don't know how it's done. I don't know who teaches it. Sure. And there weren't a lot of schools back then teaching it. And, and there wasn't any really CG being done or commercially done or even being, taught. And this is back in 87. And found a school called Sheridan College. And it was widely respected as the 2D animation school. Classical animation, they called it back then.
Right.
Yeah. So I pursued that, went in there, saw everything they did, met the teachers, students, and I was hooked. And so that, again, so spent 4 years, just learning to do 2D animation, and jumped right out there and got my first job in the gaming industry. And this was even before CG, so this is 92. And I remember they got all the computer. We had computers, but still games were hand drawn. This was Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and I was tasked with working on a Spider-Man game for Sega CD-ROM. Nice. And we had to hand draw everything. Everything was traditionally animated. Mm-hmm. So my first day, we were sent down to the comic book store. Said, buy up as many Spider-Man comic books as you can find. Todd McFarlane was the style we wanted to. Yeah, and that was the hot. And so we needed to emulate. Yeah, Todd. So that was, we were given a month to, practice his style, and that was a dream. Man, I'm getting paid now to do
no kidding.
What I love. Yeah. And so he had all these CG tools, I remember. And he said, nobody's touching this stuff. The boss comes in, we spent all this money, nobody's even, play with this stuff. This 3D stuff is pretty cool. We're like, I don't know what to do with it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, so I was traditionalist at heart still, like 2D. And, so I definitely wanted to pursue that passion still and continue working in that industry. And so, moved to Vancouver after that job, and it was in 94, and started working at smaller studios, just, again, getting a good reputation, just, again, working my way up the ladder, taking any job I could find, just to get experience. And Magic School Bus, Tales from the Crypt Keeper, Eek the Cat, a couple of, there you go, Saturday morning cartoons that, were on in the early 90s and big hits. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And then you mentioned Disney. So, Disney came a-calling to Vancouver and worked there for 4 years, and sequels to Beauty and the Beast and Peter Pan, Little Mermaid, Lion King, I don't know, Pocahontas, lots. Yeah.
Lots and lots.
Lots and lots. And,
so you're talking about all the stuff that you would have, the CG stuff that no one was really using. So that was around the time of Pixar, and have you even heard of Pixar at that point?
No.
Because I remember I'm trying to look it up here. Sorry, I was up here clicking in the background.
Go ahead,
I'm trying to look. I listened to this amazing audiobook about the resurgence of Pixar. I'm trying to look it up here to try to remember the name of it.
95 was the release of Toy Story.
Yeah. That wasn't that long off that,
no,
right?
I saw it 2 times in a week. I was just transfixed. I was like, so back at Sheridan College. So when I graduated in 92, they had just announced this 1-year CG program. So a bunch of guys that I graduated the 2D program with said, hey, we're going to stay and take this 1 year. It sounds pretty cool. I think it's going to be, big. And Terminator 2 had come out and all this stuff. And Jurassic Park didn't hit till about 93, but that just blew the doors off the industry. And so these guys that went on to do that CG, they're now veterans at ILM, Pixar, places,
Absolutely.
Digital Domain. Like they've gone all over the place.
Sure.
That's where it took them. And so if that was a path I could have followed, my mom even said to me, son, if you want to go and take this, we'll pay for you to take this extra year. But, I wanted to get out there. I didn't, I love to draw. So just computers at that stage didn't really appeal to me as much. And
so for you, it was more the pencil to paper or
drawing, absolutely. And
like
2D was huge. I mean, that was the second golden age of Disney. So, that was...
So that was around like Beauty and the Beast, Lion King,
Aladdin and all those,
Aladdin,
yeah, Lion King.
Where they were starting to add, like especially Beauty and the Beast, adding 3D elements, but the actual stuff itself were of course hand drawn. Yeah,
CG was quite
CG,
new and still, and no one really knew its potential, and but Disney was pushing the boundaries always. So
yeah, even looking back at that, I remember hearing the story about how it was George Lucas, he sold a Pixar, and one of the few times he made a bad business decision. And so it was a Steve Jobs.
They wanted the technology, at the time. Yeah. They didn't buy it, to say, hey, we're going to make feature films. It was like they had this, I think it was a render software.
Absolutely.
And Steve Jobs, exactly, one of the shrewdest investments he ever made, of course.
Absolutely.
And no one had heard of Pixar, not until Toy Story really hit. I mean, and again, you didn't have a lot of channels to hear about this stuff because it was literally pick up the phone and call somebody. We didn't have the internet and stuff like that.
Kids today, they have it so easy.
So they have no idea. I know, us old timers, we talk about, man, how many miles we had to walk to school.
We even, just to look something up, like I was doing right now on trying to find something on Audible here. Back in the day, you have to go to the library and look in a book, that kind of thing. And that's the world at your fingertips, literally, at this point.
Well, 12 years ago, when I took over, I started the animation program, my first couple of orientation sessions, those early years, I did take the students to the library to show them where it was. This is your reference. Mm-hmm. But I gave up on that after nobody ever went. And, it was like, unfortunately, Google's became quite easy to.
Well, that's the thing, too.
Accessible,
Again, there's so much stuff out there these days. Pixar Touch, The Making of a Company by David A. Price.
Right.
I believe that's the one I was referring to. There's also The Disney War. By James A. Stewart, I believe.
Yeah.
Those are amazing books I'm sure they're to read. I drive a lot. I drive like 8 or 9 hours at a time going out to Saskatchewan, Alberta, so I'll listen to these audiobooks, and they're just fascinating to me.
They've done, there's a couple of good books on those Disney years because, the fight for the company and where actually animation almost killed the company. And they almost broke it into pieces, Disney. And who knows, what we'd have today. But
Right. So kind of, if you can, just briefly, what's it like working for a Disney company? Like, what is the work environment like? What's it? Yeah. Like, how do they, we'll start with that, I guess. What's the work environment like?
Well, they really, again, my experience was better than some others. Some didn't fit well into that whole, I guess they deemed it too stressful, living by the deadline, just expected to deliver a certain level of quality on a daily basis. And I embraced it. I loved it, and there was a lot of perks involved, obviously. We'd get these silver passes every year, so this got us into any theme park Disney owned in the world for free and, things like that. And, they really groomed us nicely. They let us kind of get our feet wet. I remember Beauty and the Beast, actually. We were given like an extra 6 to 9 months just to polish it up and because we kind of had the training wheels on, There were a lot of veterans we worked with, but it was a brand new studio. And we were, to some degree, junior artists, even though I'd been in the industry a good, 3-4 years. But, to conform, to get to what they expected us to be, the level they wanted us at, So I remember, that was really good. And then they said, okay, this next production, there's no more, we're expecting this certain level from you, and there's no more grace period on, hitting deadlines and such. And unusual for a lot of companies, for sure. But they saw it
they're
as
Disney.
They're Disney.
They're
they
the
had the
industry
patience,
standard.
the time, and the money. Yeah, they wanted a
time,
really good
especially.
first product out of that studio. And we were in conjunction with Toronto. So Toronto was the bigger studio. They did, it was a 75-minute, feature-length production. So we probably handled 15 to 20 minutes of that at our studio in Vancouver, the 50 artists. And they had about 200 artists in Toronto.
Wow.
And it was just a blast. I learned, you can't help but learn from these guys. And they'd send people down from the California studio to talk to us and, inspire us. And they'd bring guys in. We'd have life drawing sessions in the evening and bring animals in. And, you just had it all to become and be, and stay motivated and be the best artist you could possibly be. And, the fact that you felt proud working for a company like that. Like, have a Disney jacket. And I wanted to start a softball team, and I remember they bought us all this gear and jerseys and hats and said, go, sign you up. And so we had a Disney team. And
wicked.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And we recently had an alumni come back. It was your idea to have them come back and maybe talk to the graduating students about industry expectations and what they've accomplished. And I remember listening something about, and I was there, I attended the event. It was great hearing their stories and stuff. A couple things like some of the kids that have been gone like 3 years, 4 years, some maybe 1 year, 2 years. And great sort of hearing their stories. But they were talking about, is it quotas? How you were saying almost on a daily basis you would get judged? Is there, because we have graduates now working for Disney, Club Penguin, we have working for Yeti Farm, Bardell. Is that sort of the norm now as far as a working experience? Like it's on a quote for a quota for weekly?
Yeah.
Like how many scenes they have to do? Was that what?
Well, for some studios, it helps with their budget.
Okay.
So they know they're going to pay you X amount of dollars based on how many seconds or whatever you're going to produce each week.
Sure.
So they'll pay you by the second perhaps, or they just know we have to get this show done in this specific amount of time. So in order to do that, we have 10 people to do it. They've got to do this X amount of footage or time each week or each day. And so they were saying someone with little less experience would be like maybe 20 seconds per week, some 40, some even 60, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean it takes for if anyone's tried animation in the past, I mean that's a long time. 60 seconds, 20 seconds, 40 seconds, that's a long time. Yeah, like at Disney we had footage we needed to complete. We called it footage, right. And so we had to do 10 feet a week. And and that was in a foot of animation, we'll call it that, was 16 frames, 16 drawings. So 160 drawings a week on average. And this is approved final clean animation, like done. So that's a lot of drawing, even if you'd love to draw. Now, a scene's complexity or how much you could get done in a week, and the same thing with how many seconds you can do in a week, if it's 25 versus 60, depends on the style of the animation, the complexity of the characters you have to animate and things like that. So they take all that into account, and try to balance it. And again, it all comes down to the different shows and that the person's working on. But
absolutely,
quotas are an very important aspect.
Sure. And they sound like they were very team oriented. It wasn't just that the people had to backstab each other. If they couldn't get their 20 seconds, they'd hand it to someone else and they'd work on it and stuff like that too.
You hope that's
like
the case.
A team environment. You hope that's I'm sure there might be some places out there that aren't like that.
But if you pull too many favors, or you're gonna see yourself out of a job soon. I mean, unless you've had some kind of major surgery that
or someone family member
lost your right hand for an extended period of time.
Is there something in particular, like a certain skill that's going to get someone more like a job like 2D animation versus 3D animation, like a modeler versus a character design artist or something? Is there anything in particular that, or does it just depend on what the company is hiring and what they need at the time?
No, again.
Or is that just a big question?
That's a big question. But no matter what medium you're working in, I think it really always comes back to, again, the core fundamentals. Traditional skills transcend everything. 3D is just another extension of your creativity, what you do in the computer. It's another medium. whether it's modeling in the computer or animation. It all comes back to how well do you know anatomy? How do you study anatomy? Well, you draw it. You know, that's often the best way to teach yourself something, because it forces you to analyze something. You're recording it by drawing it, and you retain that way and start to break it down and understand. We're not teaching you to be the best artist, but just to be an analytical person and observe and to understand aesthetics, what looks good. And I think that comes down, our students, you can be, the quickest modeler, the quickest animator, but if you don't have that really a good eye for how somebody moves properly, or, how that rib cage should look, and you haven't then done your proper studies,
Because it's all about, a lot of it too is observing people, like artists in general. You have to be able to watch someone walking down the street and see, the heel toe, kind of how the foot works and how the knees work and the ligaments and stuff like that. Or at least to be able to imagine, not look at them like you have an X-ray, but try to imagine at least what that would look like.
Yeah, party.
Yeah, and then I know back in because I've been associated with the school for about 6, 7, maybe 8 years now. As a student first, now working here. And I remember back, I had friends who were in the animation program. I'd come and say hi and look at them, what they were doing. And they would talk about the 2D portion. Like they would have life drawing and things like that.
Yeah.
And I guess, and for me, it seemed to be that it was just something that they needed to do as far as an artistic expression. Like we were trying to encourage people, you need to be a good artist as well as being able to work computers. And that used to be just one component of the 3D animation course. Now 2D animation has its own program unto itself. Now, for 2D animation, for someone like me, I think of it like we were mentioning before, or like old school Disney, Dumbo, Robin Hood. I'm sure there's more famous ones. Those are the ones that's popping into my head right now. Cinderella, Snow White, those kind of movies. That's what I think of. But then that kind of got replaced by Pixar and Toy Story and DreamWorks and Kung Fu Panda and all these different ones. But 2D animation has always sort of been there, correct?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like with television animation, things like that. And my first point was, so people coming to a school like this have to be good artists, right? That is a prerequisite.
Right.
So how important is
you
that?
have to love art.
Yeah.
You have to love it.
That's what I always try to tell kids when I'm on the road.
You can't just love computers or just love playing games.
Yeah. The people think it's all about computers and computer animation and things like that. But you have to be a good artist, first of all, correct?
Yeah, you do. You have to be passionate about that. And it's so funny, it can almost come full cycle, like the 3D animation we're seeing now in feature films, and like Kung Fu Panda and Tangled and Frozen, they're trying to get more of a 2D look in that animation.
Absolutely.
They're trying to get more of that pleasing aesthetic, that fluidity, that looseness, and so you have these 2D artists almost training these CG artists to get more of that look to it, that feel. And 2D itself, again, it's the backbone for, I think, every successful artist in this medium, in this industry. That's why we teach 2D in the 3D program, life drawing, as you mentioned, character design, just traditional animation, because I think, that has to, again, it will make you a better CG artist. And it will, myself, coming from that 2D background early in my career and going to a job like at EA Sports, and where it was completely CG medium, not a shred of drawing was done at that studio, unless they're designing the box art. But making that transition from a traditional medium like that, like drawing, to a more technical medium like computer, and amalgamating the two and having that seamless kind of creativity flow through your fingertips, through the keyboard onto your screen, that's challenging. That's a challenging thing to teach. You almost can't. And the only way you can do it is become proficient enough with the software that it's second nature, so that all that creative knowledge you have as an artist is flowing, through instinctively. And that takes years to master sometimes. In a 2-year program, we certainly get students to a certain point, and the ones that work super hard at it and are the better artists will be more successful in the end. That really can identify what looks good. And how things should look, and be self-critical without us having to say step 1, step 2, step 3. And software doesn't take a long time to learn. It's pretty. But being an artist, that can take years. So the longer you've been doing it, the better off, and I think the more advantage you'll have coming into a career like this. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's so prevalent these days. Like TV commercials have like these amazing CG shots and visual effects, things like that. TV shows will have Saturday morning cartoons like Beware the Batman lately had some, and Green Lantern before that it was specific 3D. It looked like a Pixar kind of version of the DC universe a little bit. They didn't last very long, but then there's also like Teen Titans where it's all, I imagine, 2D animation because that's that kind of style.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they converted to 3D, but they couldn't really do human faces that well. With that's kind of what I heard.
Yeah.
Because that's, again, going back to Snow White, Cinderella, how these amazing artists have these amazing physical facial features and really lifelike, and then they go to 3D, and then there's a reason they go to they have movies like Kung Fu Panda where the main character is a panda, and all these different characters, because they weren't really good. They have that what was it, the Valley of the unrealistic looking eyes. I can't remember I can never remember the phrase.
Yeah.
Valley of the something. I can't remember the name, but when they did like Polar Express, things like that, people always complained about the kids having these really creepy looking eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now we have Frozen and those kind of movies and Tangled and things like that where the main characters are human. Yeah. And so it's come a long way even just in a couple of years. So it's amazing the technological advances.
Yeah. And going a step further, even with motion capture, you look at movies like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes now.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest advances, Andy Serkis talks about this, who does Caesar in the movie, is the facial, the facial recognition now with the mocap data. It sometimes was always, like for right up until a couple of years ago, that stuff was never really captured. It was to a degree, but it took an animator to plus it a lot. Yeah. And he calls it putting digital makeup now on his performance, and which, to the chagrin of some animators, they don't like that term as much because they still do a lot of work, but they don't get maybe feeling like saying it that way. Yeah. You're not giving us the recognition we deserve.
Yeah, because I remember a couple of years back, maybe 10 years back or whatever, there was always this thing about how, we won't need actors anymore. Yeah. It's going to just be all CG. And it's like, that's like maybe 50 years away. We're going to need Andy Serkis and guys like that. So it's going to be
I could see
way
a
away
whole,
from that.
Yeah, and I could see like a new category for the Academy Awards, being a CG,
there should.
CG actor.
Yeah, absolutely. For Andy Serkis, they should give him, some kind of award, like back in the day when they would just give Charlie Chaplin an award for being awesome.
Yeah, he's really pushed the envelope. Yeah, for sure.
Because he's a whole other level. In fairness to the other actor, I don't know if you compare him to whoever was in the Best Actor race, or when he did King Kong, or he did Smeagol, or
subtleties in his acting, and you hone in on it a bit more when it's a character like Caesar. I think because there's not a lot of dialogue going on, and the nuances,
so many nuances,
that really come through, and that's where a good animator too can plus that and can really push it so it's a little more clear. You get a real actor on the screen; they get a bunch of different takes to try and get that right performance, but you can't really plus it afterwards. You're not going to push that eye a little more, CG that mouth. You can if you're very subtle about it, perhaps. But that's
I just saw that movie in L.A. at the ArcLight in the Dome, the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and it's just amazing watching all of that. And again, if I ever sat down and watched the behind the scenes, and just to me, it looked funny with all the people in the ping pong suits running around,
on horses
like apes,
and running around like
So you mentioned EA.
Yeah.
How long did you work for EA?
I worked for a year. I worked on one title there, NBA Live.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that game.
Yeah. Oh, the 2K property has really taken off. NBA Live kind of died, and I think it's I don't know how healthy it is right now, but they're trying to. It was a very hot game. It was right up there with the NHL and
2K. They're still releasing stuff like the new WWE games. I think are all 2K and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think they've.
Or at least that's the name.
Property.
I might just be a brand.
So that's Take Two. They have Rockstar and all that.
Oh yeah.
And, right. Yeah. Then that was that was my first CG job.
Sure.
And it was that was quite the transition. So based off of my Disney work that they saw. Mm-hmm. They recognized, hey, this guy clearly knows how to animate, and though he's never, touched any real software, but we can, So they gave me 3 weeks. I got ramped up on the software they were using, and and just took again, all the knowledge I had from a 2D background, and this is where I'm talking about that transition to software technical. And so, I had to get really comfortable with the software for me not to be thinking about every button I pushed and, in the interface. And so that, definitely was a different experience. Something I enjoyed, but I found limiting in some ways too, coming from a free expressive kind of background, being able to draw. And no, I had to be like super realistic.
Right.
Yeah.
And was it sort of like EA? Wasn't that one of like the first kind of companies where they would have like if you had a kind of a brain cramp or something like that, or you just had it's a block, like writer's block kind of thing. You could just go down and play foosball and like was that EA was one of those major companies that tried that, and they're very relaxing sort of tried the environment. So that
first company I had experienced it with, and I think it wasn't quite the norm to have the perks that they offered.
Right. I remember seeing just newspaper articles about these kind of things.
You
how
could
it's
get
so
a massage.
Crazy or radical.
You could get a massage if you wanted, and they had Pilates classes at lunch, and whatever, or go shoot some hoops. Or there was a soccer league. I mean, we were big enough to have a whole league at our studio.
Soccer league, not just a soccer team, like you were saying before about a baseball team, but like, it's like a holy cow.
Yeah, enough people. So I mean, it was. So that was like there were parts of the building I never saw. I just in my whole year there, I just never got to. And
I'm sure
because you just
Is there something as far as your career? I know you've been working here for a long time now. Is there something that you kind of find yourself bragging about at times? If you have like maybe you're at a party or a barbecue or something like that, people are talking, and is there something that you kind of is there some one particular thing where you're like, I worked on this, and like humble bragging?
Well, Disney for sure. I mean, that everyone recognizes that as kind of the pinnacle of of animation and whatever, and for whatever reason, Magic School Bus, this generation of kids grew up with that. Our students, that always gets, oh, really? Like that show. And I heard they're reviving it, CG, I heard they're going to reboot it. So it'll be interesting what they can do, with the bus and stuff. And I'm sure they'll take it in a whole new direction. But that always gets, and that was, I feel proud to be a part of that. It seems to have been, a big part of the childhood of our students, and
absolutely.
But the Disney movies as well. I don't brag though. I mean, I'm not. But people ask me, "What do you do?" And I say, I used to work for Disney and EA, and those are the two well-known companies.
Ones, EA Sports.
Yeah, and I'm proud to have had those experiences. And going to EA was a conscious decision on my part that I needed to embrace, this new CG world and try new things and push myself to, challenges and such. And again, something we try to really get a message to our students about, just hopefully they're in a position to.
Is there a place you find inspiration? Is there something that you try to? Do you do a lot of? Oh, actually, I guess that's first. Do you do a lot of work, or do you find yourself just as a teacher, you just have more time focusing on other people, teaching kids stuff like that? Do you have things that you work on? Things like.
I do, but again, for me, if I'm doing this so long, and the reward for doing this is not only seeing our grads be successful, but is every day is a new creative challenges. Something I don't think I'd necessarily find on the job. Like I don't repeat the same thing every day, technically. I mean, it's for me the joy is sitting down with a student or teaching a class, or giving feedback. And I know I'm helping them learn something. And for me, I'm learning something as well. I mean, it helps me grow. And I loved it, when I give my input and I get to sit down and sketch something out for the student or check this workout that I just came across. This is like really cool. And I mean, getting to talk about this stuff all day and teach it and stuff is the biggest gas for me. I mean, it's, and
constantly having new people come in and having learning stuff about them and their backgrounds and seeing them start at point A and having them by graduation be at point G or that kind of thing. I mean,
I'd have to take
really
a real
rewarding.
sabbatical exactly if I wanted to do anything creatively for myself, so to speak. I mean, I find all my creative energy is put into this school and into the students, which is fine by me. Definitely, I have little side things I work on, but honestly, that 100% of my time is spent.
What about advice? I mean, if someone's listening to this, say a prospective student who's thinking about this kind of thing but doesn't know if they have that kind of oomph or whatever till they get to the next level. What do you think is maybe some advice you got when you were younger, or something you could pass on? I mean, you must say it all the time.
Cliche, follow your dream, follow your passion. I mean, that's what you hear all the time, and it's tough to, somebody, we definitely get students that they've been doing a trades job or something, that they definitely know is paying the bills, putting a roof over their head, whatever. But it's not their passion. They know they were meant for something more, whether it's music or art or whatever. And I really like those people that they're going to take that chance, that risk. I'm going to go to school for 2 years of my life or a year of my life and just dedicate myself to that. And hopefully this will lead to something successful, something I can, because the greatest feeling I tell them is get paid for something you love to do. Like sitting there, if you can sit there at your job and look out the window, just pause for a moment and think, wow, they pay me to do this. That's I want that for every student that comes through here.
One of those things, it's like, again, cliche. One of the things that adults tell you when you're a kid and you're like, okay, whatever. But it is one of those basic human things. I mean, it really is that simple. If you can find something that you're passionate about and get paid to do it for a living, what else is there? I mean, as far as, professional-wise, things like that. It's just a really simple equation. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of math to figure out life. If you really, that kind of, when it gets right down to it.
And,
I mean,
you might have a family. It doesn't matter how old you are. Right. Honestly, life's too short, I figure. And
that's something I kind of tell people too, is that it's one thing to go to school, things like that, but no one can teach you passion. No one can teach you hard work. Dedication, being the ability to be rejected over and over and over again and keep going, that kind of thing. It's one thing we can't necessarily can teach you, and no one can teach you those things. Those are things that you have to have in yourself. So the passion side of it, you have to look within yourself and find that. We can help you bring it out and have the skills and, get you a little bit better at maybe making, someone's walk cycle will be a little more realistic or whatever, but.
No, I mean,
and then try to put you in the right path as far as because you're like the next week you're taking the students down to the studios.
We're going to Vancouver, and it should never feel like work. No, and but we're again. So we've got a group of students close to finishing, and again, giving them this taste of reality, and that's the biggest thing. Is these are young kids. A lot of them, these students are young. This is their first time away from home. It's going to be their first real job, perhaps. I mean, they're nervous, and it's a big world and it's a big industry. And
absolutely.
So, giving them that little taste of what it's like out there, how a real studio operates, what they look for when they hire people, and to go to conferences like SIGGRAPH, which we're going to, and visit the job fair where they have to walk up to a recruiter, look them in the eye, shake their hand, introduce themselves, and put themselves out there, and really just trust that something good will come from this if I stick to it. Perseverance is a big thing.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
and you can be, if you're shy, I mean, it's one thing, but otherwise you have to be able to promote yourself and not in a cocky, confident, like a jerk kind of way, but just be that guy who can go up to someone and say, you need to pay me X amount of dollars. I mean, because that's what you're worth. You don't want to, and it's one of those things. I mean, you'll be the most famous or non-famous, most talented non-famous person that no one ever heard of.
Yeah.
If you have these great works of art in your basement that no one's ever seen, what good is that? I mean, so that's part of it too, of course. Yeah, and that's great that we have industry professionals when they come in, when they're graduating, to assess their work and maybe give them some pointers, advice. Because that's sort of like that whole empty nest syndrome of, okay, first the kids, they leave home, come to school. So they've left mom and dad, and that's, you need to figure out how to do laundry on their own and that kind of stuff and cook their own meals. And then after about 2 years here, or at any school, 4-year program, whatever, then they're around like-minded people. They're around professors who are encouraging them. They're around these people who can inspire them. And then they have to graduate and then go off into the real world where there's maybe they go to a big city like Vancouver, LA, whatever, and they have maybe a small apartment, and they have to learn things all over again and how to introduce themselves. And that's another thing. You have to sort of I believe Harley Knife.
Yeah.
He said something to that effect, where
Yeah.
it's like that's the whole learning process all over again. It's like you're around once you leave this nest that you sort of built for yourself around your friends, your fellow students, your teachers, this circle of encouragement that you have. Leaving here is just a whole nother world, and it's just you have to keep and that's when you have to rely on yourself.
Yeah.
That's when you have to push yourself through the doorway and keep encouraged. And even if you might have to get a job at 7-Eleven or something like that, not that that's bad, but that to pay your bills while you have to be inspired during the day and keep working. And
you can't lose.
It's so hard.
Yeah, you can't lose sight. Why did I decide to do this in the first place? What drove me to spend 2 years of my life going to school?
Yeah.
And why did I enjoy doing this when I was younger? What led me? And so now I've got this great education. I've got all these prospects. I've learned so much. I'm such a better artist, but life can get in the way, and they have to remember there's no easy path to the top of the mountain. There's going to be detours, but never lose sight of that ultimate goal. And you might not get a job right out of school. You might get a lot of doors slammed in your face. You got to keep believing in yourself, keep trying to get better, and just really never give up, persevere. I mean, it's such a competitive industry, but it's a big industry. And I hear every day, I can almost say every day, that studios we need the talent. Where are they? We can't find them.
And we've had people graduate from here who I've literally have thought this is the greatest artist I've ever seen in my life and possibly will ever see in my life. And they're not necessarily the ones getting jobs. I mean, we see students who are...
If you don't pursue it,
if they're not going to come knocking on your door at your house, you have to go find them. And that's we have had students who aren't the most talented. I mean, they're very talented, but not as talented as some other people.
Yep.
And they've been rejected and rejected and rejected, and they just keep going back. And people admire that. People with hiring positions, they root for them, and they try to find a way in for these. So that's part of it too. Being a nice person, being easy to work with. There's lots of things that just not necessarily just in your portfolio and what you can do. That's a huge part of it, of course, but you have to be able to just get along with people. Just basic human, being nice and stuff like that. People want someone that you can have a conversation with. I mean, that you're able to work with. And people can figure that out pretty quickly, like in a job interview. So
you touch on a good point. I mean, again, you could be the most talented person, but again, it comes down to employability skills, which is a big thing we embrace here and try to impart on the student.
Their PDP, right?
Right, for professional development, training, and just every day in class. Like, we're harping on it probably too much, but just because we feel it's so important. And communication, teamwork, time management, all of those, key skills. Getting hired in a job, your portfolio is half the battle. Really it is about... And we just got a student got hired at a Yeti farm and said, "Oh, really? Man, he graduated a couple of years ago." So yeah, well, he just kept bugging us, and we finally had an opening with an internship, and so he was working at McDonald's, but he never gave up, and he kept at it. Now he's working. And
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. Real quick, I'm just going to give you some rapid fire questions here.
Okay.
That you weren't prepared for. So I got it off this article, 64 first date questions, Sean. Okay. So we're going to pretend like we're going on our first date and get to know each other a little bit here. Okay, so real quick. If you're going on holidays, travel abroad or stay home?
Stay home.
Stay home?
Yeah.
So, and say, read a book or work in the garden or
read
stay
a book.
busy?
Yeah, read a book. Yeah. And there's always some new discovery where you live. Things. Hey, I should do that, especially where we live. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Actual books or e-books?
Actual books.
Actual books.
Oh yeah, I go to the library.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I do. I still use the library.
PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love Sony's.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person. My wife doesn't like that. I'm first one up.
Yeah. Worst job you ever had?
My first job, probably dishwasher.
There you go.
Yeah, first job. But in the industry, I worked for this pretty kooky company.
Yeah.
I think was a front for some kind of money laundering operation.
Well, we don't have to name them.
No.
I know the statute of limitations is on stuff like that, so we'll leave that out. Yeah. Cat person or dog person?
Dog.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to cats, unfortunately. I love them both. But
my next question, allergies.
Yeah, cats.
Cats. Yeah.
Kill me. Go to a party, ruins my night.
Yeah.
Get the cat out of here.
I've seen your desk. It's one of the most entertaining ones in the school. But I was going to say, do you collect anything? But
Yeah. I'm a big Star Wars nuts, so
Right.
I collect Star Wars toys.
you got a Jar Jar toy, I see.
Yeah. So, yeah. I collect
Worst
toys.
injury you ever had?
Tearing my Achilles tendon.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just came back from New York City, walked probably millions of miles, and went to play softball, which I hadn't done in 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my fifth inning,
Bad
second at
idea.
bat, just wham. So I taught from a chair. That was, for 2 months, I think. Yeah, that was worst.
Cup half empty or half full?
Oh, half full. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a positive guy.
As a teacher, I mean, you kind of
Yeah.
have to be at this
I
point.
always look on the bright side of things. I'm trying to be upbeat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oldest, youngest, middle, only child. Which is it?
Oldest, yeah.
Oldest, yeah. How many brothers, sisters?
One sister, yeah.
Sister.
2 years younger, but she's my little sister.
Okay, last question. Convenience store. You're going to go for a snack. Let's pretend in a hypothetical situation. Or say you're going for some gas and you realize you're kind of hungry.
Yeah.
You're going to buy a bag of chips or a candy bar?
Probably. I like them both, but yeah. Probably go for the chips.
Yeah?
Yeah,
And
like-
what kind?
Doritos.
Doritos?
Yeah.
Cool Ranch, Nacho,
Cool Ranch.
Cool Ranch,
Yeah.
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 That's it? Anything else you want to add?
No.
No?
If anybody, felt like I'm in eHarmony or something, but yeah.
I think we're good. We can go on that date now.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Okay, thanks, Sean.
Hey, my pleasure. That was a good time.
Great.
Thanks, Chris.